第一场的场次要跟大家谈的是 Strategic Investing, Making Corporate Venture Capital Work。这个场次非常高兴邀请到 Mitchell Weinstock, Partner of HP Tech Ventures 来跟我们主讲。So ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Mr. Mitchell Weinstock from HP Tech Ventures to talk about strategic investing, making corporate venture capital work. 我们掌声有请。
Good afternoon. The second half of the day is going to probably be quite a bit different than the first half of the day. Some of my goals for today's presentation is to remove the mystery of some of the venture capital areas. I think that there's a lot of confusion when startups are trying to get money for their startups, who to go after, how do you get a check out of HP? You know, how do you actually get money for your startup? And I think one of the problems that I run into often is that the people who are in the startup community ask the wrong people to fund their companies. So I think part of this is a little bit of an education to say, when do you come to a corporate? When do you go to an institutional VC? So hopefully you'll come away with some ideas about that. And what I'd like to do with this presentation is kind of give you an idea about what goes on in a corporate venture capital team and why it's different than a regular venture capital person. So first of all, in the audience, who here is what they think is in a startup? Raise your hands, please. Are there any startups here? 1, 2, okay, what are the rest of you guys doing? So who here is from a government agency of any country? No Taiwan company, okay, right? All right. Who here is from a corporation, a large company that, beside the orange guy? What are the rest of you people doing? So, so the rest of the group here are in the communication 5G areas? Yes? Oh, stunned silence, okay. So what I'm going to do is walk through here and make believe you guys wanted to get money out of a big company because you were doing a startup. And hopefully I'll give you a little bit of education about how it works, what the process is, why corporates seem so slow to do things, and how you can get business out of a large company like HP. And maybe it'll set the stage a little bit about how this all works. So, first of all, there's a lot of money being spent in venture capital, if you haven't realized that. In North America alone, $102 billion has been invested. In Europe, $21 billion has been invested. In Asia, another $81 billion has been invested in startups in various different stages. And we'll talk a little bit about what these stages are and what it means. But there's a lot of people that think that this is the way to fund a company. And there's a lot of investors that want to do it this way. So a CVC, a corporate venture capital group, is a unique animal in the venture capital world. They're growing like crazy in percentage of deals. It's a worldwide phenomenon. If you look at that orange section here, you can see that somewhere between 19 to 30% of venture deals are being funded by the corporates. So it's not an insignificant number. It's pretty consistent. It's been going on for some time now. And that means that you may need to have a strategic partner as part of your investor group to be able to help validate your technology, to help get an order. And one of the differences between a CVC and a VC is that corporate venture capital people also work as business development people. They will help you find an order inside of the large company. So I will be, for a small company, like your concierge Sherpa. I will find exactly the right place inside of HP to take you to that team. So it's not this big, opaque, giant company anymore. It's someone who's going to help you go directly to where you want to go and maybe get an order out of this company. There are a lot of corporate venture capital groups. You saw the pictures earlier from our friend from Orange. This is just a prettier version of what he was doing. But what's clear is that as you look through these logos, there's many, many vertical markets that corporates represent. They're interested strategically in just the areas that they care about. And I'll take you some of our examples. I think what I'd like to do is kind of lay out this idea of here's how it works for us. And it works this way sort of like for everybody, but I'll use our company as an example, and you just do the variations from there. So this is not an unusual thing at all. So what's going on? The pace of technology is changing in ways that are pretty extraordinary. Look, it took 46 years to adopt electricity at the home. Facebook only took 4 years for adoption. This accelerated cycle is incredible. There's no way that these large corporates can move forward at the pace that's necessary at what I'll call web speed. You know, we're kind of usually working on a geological time scale compared to most very quick-moving startups. Also, if you look at what's going on in Standard & Poor's, the amount of time that people are staying in the S&P 500 is shrinking. People are falling off all the time. All this innovation is pushing things to go faster and faster and faster, and the ability to adopt for larger entities is very, very difficult. So, what do? We have a bunch of internal innovation going on. Inside, I have business units. These people have their own ideas. They're doing their own investing in the products. We have HP Labs, which is sort of like the Xerox PARC for HP. They're thinking about things that are 5, 10, 15 years from now and working at all kinds of technology levels. We have incubations we do on our own. We try different things all the time. We spend our own money. We do that. In fact, the watch I'm wearing right now, which looks like a Ferrari watch, this was from one of our innovation teams that was trying to get into the wearables business. And they came out with an incredible line of products. But this is one of those things that wasn't sustainable. It's a great watch, but it wasn't a business. So sometimes we do incubations and they die. And it's very expensive internally to do this type of thing. We also have something called the HP Sandbox. We have lots of good ideas from lots of employees, so we have a place to put it. And we save those ideas, we store them, and we review them from time to time to see if there's something there we should be working on. That's inside. Outside, we have external innovation. We do work with traditional partners. Many of the companies in Taipei have worked with HP over the years. We also have a group called Corp Dev that does M&A. When people think about our team, they always ask, do you wind up buying companies? And the answer is no. Those guys buy companies. Those are the guys that will decide there's something strategic that they need inside of HP, and they just want to go ahead and do a merger or an acquisition. We are not that. We are the dating before you get married people. We're the people that want to invest a little bit of money now at a very early stage and watch the companies grow over time, maybe over 3 or 4 years. Are you hitting your milestones? Is the team staying together? Are they making the commitments that they had work? So we work with startup partners all the time, and we do minority investing. What is minority investing? Minority investing is we put in less than 20% into a round of funding. So every time somebody decides to go out and get money, you're going to buy some equity in the company just like you would buy stock on the stock market. We do not want to do 80%. We want to do only 20%. Somebody else has to put the 80% in. And some of the reasons I talk to other venture capital people is I want to know what their investment thesis is. If I find something really interesting to me and somebody else has interest in that area, I need to go to them to write the term sheet. I need to go to them to do the major part of the funding, and I will be part of the syndicate. So I do portfolio reviews. I talk to lots of venture capital people. I have a hunt list that we discuss, and we look to see if there's anything in their portfolio they've already funded that I might be interested in. So this is current and future. What is going to happen next? If there's somebody, I'm very interested in microfluidics, for example. So I know Kerma Partners in Paris has a great interest in that area. If I found a company that's in Europe, I might go to them to help with the funding. Similarly here, I would need to build a network of venture capital people for Taipei. If I wanted to invest someplace here, I'd need to have a working venture capital partner here. and then we would do syndication. So, just to give you a sense, 5 years ago, HP split into two $50 billion companies. Today, there's something called Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, which is a different company. That's not me. They have a green square. They're in the cloud. They do servers. That's not us. HP Inc., INC, we're the guys that make things. We make laptops, we make computers, we make speakers. We have a great 3D printing business. We owned Indigo, Cytex. We do a lot of other stuff. We're sort of like the physical manifestation of computing. So we have these areas of interest. We have some interest in AI and machine learning. We are very interested in advanced manufacturing because of what we're doing with our 3D printers and the whole workflow pipeline. We are very interested in cybersecurity and device security. I'm the cyber guy on our team in this case. So what can I do at the edge? What can I do for 12 guys in a room with IKEA furniture? They're not going to have an IT policy manager. They're not going to be looking at dashboards. So if I can do some things on our HP laptops to make that way more secure and not make it slower than the competition, I'm going to be very interested in that. Life sciences, I mentioned microfluidics. We have an AR/VR group that's intensely interested in shipping all kinds of interesting stuff. We've done we've done VR pieces in the past using Microsoft technology and others. So I'm talking about these areas of interest, and then it kind of maps to these portfolio companies. This is some of the examples of companies we've invested in. Over the last 5 years now, the team has done 30 commercializations and 13 investments, which is not bad for a team of 5 people working around the world. So some of these companies you may recognize. Bromium is a good example of a company that was a cybersecurity company I looked at in 2011. And at the time, it was terrible. It had a 50% CPU utilization rate. It only ran in one browser. It only worked on 3 links. But the gem of the idea and what they had was excellent. And we monitored it and watched over time, and it got better and better and better. And then we shipped it 3 years ago as something called HP SureClick, as an OEM product. And then this year it became so strategic to us, we actually bought the company. So this is one of those examples where we invested first, and later it became so important, the M&A team decided to buy it. So that does happen, though it's more rare. We're also invested in funds, like Pitango, as an example. It's an Israeli fund, in areas of our focus. So we are what's known as Series A investors, and I'll show you a slide on that. We do not invest in very early stage companies called seed funds or seed stages. What we do is we put money in a seed fund that kind of works out all the bugs in the beginning, and as they become more mature, then we're interested in that stage where they're starting to do better. So we are the eyes and the ears of the company. The number one thing that a corporate venture capital group does is not worry about making money. If I wanted to make money, I'd invest in PetCube, okay? Well, if we did that, the headline that VentureBeat would write would be, scathing. So we always have this headline test. Are we doing something that would not make sense to the venture community or anybody else? It has to be strategically focused. You have to be able to squint your eyes and say, 4 years from now, I can see how this makes sense for HP. So we go out and talk to all these startups. We go to places like Web Summit and TechCrunch Disrupt, and there's dozens and dozens of startup shows. And we're the people on the scene that know exactly what just happened. We're not a basic research group. We won't go back 5 years and look at all the competitors in the space. But if they need to know what just happened, just like a news organization, we know what just happened. And we inform our business units of that. So they rely on us to give them information about who's investing in competitive areas, what startups may help them that just came out. So primary goal. Second thing is commercializations. Can I find something that will help HP with a gap? We're going to ship something and there's a hole, and there's no time to do it internally. They're all focused on holiday 2020 right now. Do they have everything they need to ship the products that they're thinking about? Or is there a startup that will help us bring in the schedule and maybe pivot another 10, 20% in our direction and help us with that? And then we also do these investments as a secondary item. So this is the slide that you really have to think about. We started talking a little bit about what's the difference between institutional venture capital and corporate venture capital. These are the guys I rely on to write a term sheet. So what do they want? They want money. They want to get 5x in 5 years. They don't care how it happens. The more money, the better. They want a high level of control. If they give you money, they're going to want a board seat because they want to be able to fire the CEO if he's not doing the right thing for them. They do follow-ons. For every round that comes along, if you're doing well, they'll bring money the next time you have a B, C round. They also want a high financial exit. They do not want to see you get purchased very early in the cycle. They want us to go all the way to an IPO and make billions of dollars if possible. Also, they have expertise in building the companies and driving financial results. Okay, so what's going on the corporate venture capital side of this? Well, we have strategic objectives. We are trying to find things that help the company enter new marketplaces, adjacencies to what we're already doing. We do not want a high level of control of your company. We do not want to be able to fire you. We do not want to have a fiduciary responsibility for you, in fact. I want to be able to stand back as a board observer and not have to choose between, do I have more, is it more important for my company or your company? I don't want to make that decision. I always have to be working for my company. Our follow-ons are sporadic. I'm there for information. So if I'm getting all the information I need, I may not come back in on another round and help out, unless you're doing really well and it makes sense. Will I get more for investing later? Or maybe the budgets are bad that quarter and there's just no money to go do that. So this is an iffy kind of thing versus a venture capital group. And we actually don't care about the options. If you get bought, if you go IPO, if it's 5x in 5 years, we're interested in getting our money back. It's not strategic to lose money, last I checked, but it's not necessary that we do 5x in 5 years either. Now, our team, for our internal rate of return, we want to see high output, but not essential. So this is really important to understand. We're investing in this early to mid stage. I want to be investing during the R&D phase. I'm not necessarily investing in the growth phase when you're spending a lot of money on marketing and advertising. That's not as interesting to me. Okay? So, I mentioned our areas of focus. We go around to our business leaders and ask them what are their strategic priorities once a year or maybe more. Company could be fickle. Things change. We have to find out what they want. Now, the last time we did this, we got 156 strategic priorities, which is ridiculous. Out of that, we got it down to 60, and then we said, okay, what can we do? What 6 things can we do this year that will make a difference? So we look at the strategic areas by business unit. So PS stands for personal systems. They care about devices as a service. They care about security, commercial VR, and gaming. In the case of our print group, they care about textile printing. How do we get the analog out and stop wasting water? Security, analytics, new form factors, things about sustainability. In the 3D printing group, voxel level applications. People know what pixels are. Voxels are the Z height as well. So what kind of things are working at voxel levels, atomic levels, that can help with our 3D printing businesses? Design and workflow applications, adjacent opportunities. What else can I squirt through my 3D printers beside polymers and metals that might be interesting to our customers? What kind of vertical applications can we enable with our systems? That's what they care about. So we're scouting all the time. What can fundamentally be disruptive? What's really new, unique, and different? You know, we see plenty of things that look like something we've already seen before, and there's no patent moat, there's nothing special going on there. So we're looking for that. Is there a disruptive business here, or just disruptive technology? What's new? What's the future? What's the fit? So, where do I find these things? And this is a really interesting slide. So we do talk to a bunch of venture people. Some of the logos you see there, I work with Intel Capital. JVP is a great source for me for cybersecurity applications. We work with accelerators and incubators. There's a number of accelerators out there. These are people who take nascent companies and polish them up, fix their business models, make sure their messages are right, make sure their business is on track. Sometimes I find great people, but they have a defective business model. I'll park them in an accelerator and let them work there for 90 days and see if we can straighten things out. These are some examples of places around the world that do this. Cylon specializes in something like cybersecurity. The Business France people and NITO and other trade organizations help me. Startup communities, they're all over the place. Panorama is an example of how I wound up here today. There's people who are always helping us, point us into directions and communities that have people that might be interesting to our places. And then conferences like this one. You know, there's Our Crowd and TechCrunch Disrupt. People are coming out of stealth all the time, and we pay attention to it and show up at these places. So this is kind of the money slide. How does this work? We actually, this is my self-defense system. There's always somebody at HP and someplace else that says, I know a guy that needs a check. Will you invest in this company? It's like, no. First, you have to go through this. So, is it part of the strategic priorities? No, get out of here. Second, we go through the vetting list. These are all the places we look. And then we start getting our BUs involved. Then we do a set of business and technical vetting, right? Is it exceptional? Is it unique and disruptive? Is there a strong leadership team? I invest in teams first, not technology. The best technology almost never wins. The best execution teams almost always win. So if you've got a lousy team, we're probably not going to spend a lot of time with you. But if you've got a great team and a bad idea, we might point you in another direction. I do not need to see another dog walking app for the rest of my life, right? But there are plenty of really interesting things that are out there. So then we sit down with chief technologists, the business units, and our team and decide. And even when we find a lot of great stuff, we can't do everything. So then we have to prioritize. So this ranking here has a lot to do with how much time do we have, what's important, and how many things can we do this year. And then it goes into several buckets. Do we just keep an eye on it like we did with Bromium? Is it mature enough? Or is it a future partnership? Or should it's so important it needs to go to M&A because we don't want our competitors to get that? Or do we partner immediately? Is it mature enough where they can ship a product with HP? I think a lot of times startups think it would be great to get an order from HP and don't understand what that means. Are you ready to ship something in 47 languages on day one? That doesn't mean just doing translation. That means picking up the phone and talking in Thai in the right time zone. Are you big enough to do that? Do you understand what it means? Partner in M&A. Is it something with an immediate importance? Right? So we send things into various different buckets, and we keep monitoring it. We have processes to do that. So here's the thing to think about. About 90% of the companies I'm going to encounter will die. It's the nature of venture capital. This is a really interesting chart that came from CB Insights, and they're showing you, like, across how many rounds will a company survive over time. The statistics are terrible. So if you're really going to do this, you have to have excellent pieces of team, technology, and the ability to stay awake for 24 hours a day. You're going to be giving up 5 to 10 years of your unrecoverable life doing this. It better be the right thing to be doing. Now, our team has engaged in probably 120 venture teams this year. We've looked at 1,300 companies this last year. That's a lot of things to look at. It's exhausting. And we get to see a lot of duplication everywhere we go. But despite that, we've delivered 11 commercial licensing agreements. We've done some investments, 8 of them this last year. So despite all this process I'm showing you, somehow we still get these things over the line. So this is the list of what we ask about any given company we're interested in. It's a little bit of mouse type, but you can see, is it a good fit with HP in general? Or would you rather work with somebody like Apple? It's got to have that kind of communication skills that people like to work with each other. What's the business merits? What's the technology merits? Do you have any patents filed, or you just didn't do it because you didn't have money, but you intend to do that? What's the engagement model? Are we going to own it? Are we going to white label it? Are we going to ship something together as a co-label? Are we going to buy it? There's all different ways that you could work with HP, and you have to decide that. Is it really accretive to HP's business? Is it really helping in some way that's significant? You know, I run across a lot of companies that do very, very important work, extraordinarily important, but it's only good for 6 people. It doesn't have a big enough market, a big enough total addressable market to be venture fundable. So that's another thing. It's like you may have a great idea, you may have a great company, just go to Silicon Valley Bank and get a loan. You know, venture isn't the answer for every startup on the planet. It's got to have a hockey stick to it. Venture is used when you want to pour gasoline on a fire. The fire has to already be there. You're accelerating what's going on there. So the market has to be huge enough to make these unicorns that everybody is always talking about. So we have a small team, as I mentioned. There's only 5 of us, and led by a guy named Andrew Bolwell. He reports to the CTO of the company, and he reports to the CEO. So we're really close to the top. We can help any business unit outside of HP, and we do. Now we have some people inside of HP that said, "Hey, you know, if we didn't invent it, the customer doesn't need it." It's like, okay, great. There's plenty of other places to go, and we work collaboratively with many, many places inside of HP. But it's a rock star team that's doing a lot of work all around the world. So a little bit about me. This is the areas I look at on the team. I'm the cybersecurity guy. I'm looking at AI chip accelerators. I'm looking at active sensors, power solutions. You know, we still haven't found a way to solve the problem at the chip level for thermals. You know, we could unlock all kinds of speed if you didn't burn the chip down, right? So have we reached the point with high performance data where we want to start turning those chips back up to their real speeds, but we can't do it without, you know, no one's going to put a water-cooled computer in the back of a car to decide whether there's a deer in front of you or not. We've got to figure out how to get low power, high performance without the heat issues. And thermal is going to be a really big important part. We just don't know if anyone wants to like really spend time on that yet. I'm also the home consumer print guy. Now, one of the things that I brought with me today is something that the other part of our team does. We have a Vision and Ventures group, and we produce something called Megatrends every year. This Megatrends report for 2019 takes 6 months for our team to produce. We look at what the major megatrends are, and then we try to translate that to what HP should be doing in the next 5, 10, 15 years. We make an external version of that report that's at this very bad URL that you probably can't type out. But if you look up HP Megatrends 2019, you can find it online and download this book. It's awesome if you want to have a sense for where we think the world is going and where we think we have to do some things and looking for places that HP can intersect. So with the 3 minutes I have left, I'm going to give you one example that I think is a little fun. This is a company that I found in the UK. They have this amazing whiteboard technology. And what it does, it takes any stupid whiteboard with markers that don't have, it's just a normal marker. I think you've all had a chance of taking off the pen, writing, and it skips, and it's running out of ink. We've got millions of them out there. And when you go on a Zoom call or you go on a Skype for Business call, it always happens. Someone stands up and they walk over to the whiteboard and start writing, and no one on the call can see what's going on. And what this thing does, you stick it on top of your whiteboard, it erases you, erases your hand, and injects that whiteboard into the meeting room. So you suddenly have a digital whiteboard out of a dumb whiteboard. This is a $600 device, by the way, not $20,000 smartboard. So we found this, and we thought, wow, this could really help us with our Office of the Future work. We have some conferencing computers. We have people that build huddle rooms that we're very interested in helping with. So we talked to Captivo about this, and the leadership team was so excited that instead of just doing a bundle deal with them, they decided they wanted to white label it. So Captivo is now making this as the HP share board for us. And we went from 0 to shipping it in 7 months, which was like some lightning round thing that's never happened before. And it happened because there was this emotional thing of understanding how important this was to that particular strategy. This is something you can buy, by the way, if you decide to do that. But this is a good example of finding a startup that's doing something unique, different, had patents around it, and could do something with HP and wanted to have a secondary logo and let us ship it on our own. So this does work. And with that, I have 1 minute left. This is our sprinkles of magic. So I hope this gives you a little bit of overview about how this kind of all works. I'll be around a little bit today if you need to reach out to me for some reason. If there's any investors in the audience, please see me because I always want to know about your investment thesis. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mitchell, for shedding light on corporate venture capital at HP.